Have you ever just, stared at a button in an app and wondered, how did that get there? Or thought about some huge idea like, let's build a whole new social media platform, and tried to imagine how that becomes the tiny little pieces of code a developer actually writes? Well, we're going to pull back the curtain on that whole process and break it all down, from that massive concept all the way to the software that actually works on your screen. So yeah, this is the big question, right? How in the world do you take a huge, kind of vague idea like build a login system and turn it into something real, something you can actually see and click on? Believe it or not, it's not magic. It's actually a really cool structured process of breaking big problems into smaller and smaller pieces. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. So, every great software journey starts at the highest possible level. We're talking about the big picture, what the industry calls an epic. You can just think of it as the giant overarching goal. It's the first and, by far, the largest piece of the puzzle. Okay, so what is an epic, really? It's a massive chunk of work that describes a major feature. Remember our login functionality idea? That's a perfect example of an epic. It's way too big to tackle all at once, but it gives the team a clear direction for a whole cycle of development. And just to give you a sense of scale here, an epic is usually something that's planned to be finished within a major release, which could be as long as 3 months. So we're talking about the mountain the team is planning to climb over the next quarter. It's a big deal. But, you can't build a mountain in one go. You've got to break it down into smaller rocks. And that brings us to our next level down, a much more manageable step, the user story. A user story is really where that giant epic starts to get real. It's a small, very specific feature that can be completely built and finished within a short work cycle, which is often called a sprint. Think of it as one bite-sized piece of that much larger epic. And how short is a sprint? Well, typically, it's only about 2 weeks. So let's track this for a second. We've gone from a huge 3-month goal all the way down to a 2-week chunk of work. You see how we're breaking it down? The idea is getting more and more focused. Now, what's really cool is how a user story is written. It's always framed from the user's point of view. As an admin, I should be able to. This is so important because it's not just a technical checklist. It's a statement about the value this feature brings to a real person. Each story is a single, clear goal. But wait, we can get even smaller. We can zoom in even more. Because even a 2-week user story is made up of a bunch of smaller steps. And this brings us right down to the daily to-do list for a developer, the task. A task is pretty much the smallest unit of work you can plan. It's one specific action item needed to get a user story done. We're talking things like write the code for the username field or design the red error message. It's a super clear, achievable goal for a single day's work. And that is the absolute key. A task should take less than a normal workday, so 8 hours or less. This makes sure there's constant, steady progress, and it makes it really easy to see what's getting done every single day. So, let's put it all together. Here's the entire hierarchy in one clean flow. You start with the big goal, the epic. You break that down into specific features, which are the user stories. And then you break those stories down into the daily work, the tasks. It's like a funnel, just getting more and more specific at every single stage. Okay, great. So now we have this perfect plan to build our login system, broken down beautifully from a 3-month epic to a 1-day task. But building it is only half the battle. How do we prove that what we built actually does what it's supposed to do? And more importantly, that it doesn't break? This is where the Quality Assurance Team, or QA, comes in. You can think of them as the ultimate skeptics. It's literally their job to question everything and make sure the software is rock solid. They take those simple user stories and turn them into a whole battery of tests. So a test engineer looks at our nice, simple story, log in with valid credentials, and their brain immediately goes into overdrive. They start asking the hard questions. What's the shortest username we allow? The longest? What if someone tries to use emojis? What are the password rules? Can we handle non-English characters? They have to think of every single way a user could possibly interact with this thing, especially all the wrong ways. And all of this detailed, skeptical questioning leads to this really fascinating thing that happens in software development, the testing multiplier. It's this idea that one small piece of development work actually creates a surprisingly huge amount of testing work. And that's because one simple user story doesn't just equal one simple test. Nope, it kicks off a whole chain reaction of things that need to be verified. It's a ripple effect. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so let's watch this play out. We start with just one single user story. Nice and simple. That one story gets handed over to the QA team for analysis, and it becomes, on average, about 2 high-level test scenarios. These describe what needs to be checked. Things like test a successful login and test a failed login. But we're not even close to done. Each of those scenarios then gets broken down even further into about 3 specific test cases each, which gives us a total of 6. A test case is the super detailed step-by-step instruction on how to check something. For example, test with the wrong password, test with the wrong username, test with both fields empty. And this is where that multiplier effect just becomes massive. Just look at this chart. If a team completes just 10 simple user stories in 2 weeks, that can generate 20 test scenarios, which then explodes into a staggering 60 different test cases that all need to be written, run, and checked. That's all the hidden work that goes on behind every single feature you use. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the next time you see a simple login button on a website, I want you to remember this hidden journey. Remember that it started as just one small part of a 3-month epic, got broken down into a 2-week story, was built with single-day tasks, and then it had to be validated by dozens and dozens of tests. After all that, how many hidden steps will you see behind that one little button?